UK Sailmakers does not load the shelf with stock sails. All the sails we make are custom made. Like a tailor crafting a custom suit, many measurements are needed to ensure a good fit. This video is designed to take you through filling out the 4-page UK Sailmakers measurement form, which you can download from our website at www.uksailmakers.com in the How to Buy a Sail section, or to go directly to the form, use the link on the desktop of the CD. To assist you in filling out the form, you'll need the following: a 100-foot tape measure, steel or fiberglass reinforced to avoid stretch problems, a messenger line or spinnaker sheet to use as a pull-down line for the tape measure, a ruler, a pair of pliers to open jam shackles, a winch handle to put sails back up after you take them down, a small piece of line to tie the tape measure to the halyard shackle, a pen, a camera, some luff tape and sail slide samples which you can get from your UK Sailmakers loft. Before you take any measurements, measure your tape measure to find out where 0 is. Most tape measures have a fitting on the end that sometimes can throw off measurements. Hold the end of the tape measure against the ruler to find out where you'll be measuring from. On the steel tape shown, 0 is at the extreme edge of the metal fitting. The first measurement you'll need to make requires the tape measure to be hoisted on the main halyard. Tie the tape to the halyard shackle with a piece of small line and then attach the pull-down line. Lowering the halyard with the pull-down line when you are finished measuring is better for your tape measure. Many sailmakers have stories of climbing rigs to retrieve halyards after their tapes have broken because they didn't use a pull-down line. You don't need a special pull-down line if the halyard tail is long enough to reach the halyard shackle. Tying the tail to the shackle creates one big continuous loop. With the tape attached and the pull-down line tied on, raise the halyard as far as it will go. If your boat has a painted measurement band, have someone from off the boat tell you when the tape measure is at the lower edge of the band. The farther the second person is from the mast, the better angle they'll have for judging. Using binoculars will help too. Once the halyard is all the way up, or to the lower edge of the measurement band, measure to the top of the boom and record that measurement on the form. If you took the measurement from the band, check that box on the form. If your boat has a Dodger or a Bimini, you'll need to measure the straight line leach to ensure the boom will stay above your enclosures when the main is set. With the halyard still up all the way and the boom raised enough to clear the enclosures, measure to the bearing point of the outhaul at its loosest position. Next, measure the amount of mast bend. Begin by tensioning the backstay to its tightest setting normally used. Lower the main halyard and secure it to the gooseneck and then pull the halyard tail tight. The halyard will now be straight and the mast will be bowed forward. To avoid climbing the mast and measuring the greatest distance from the halyard to the mast, here's a way to judge that distance from the deck. Measure the number of inches from the front of the mast to the back. Use this measurement as a gauge when sighting up. Is the maximum separation between the mast and the halyard half a mast width? 2 mast widths? While making the video, we looked up and figured that there was 1 width of bend. Since the mast measured 7 inches front to back, we determined the mast to have 7 inches of bend. Then we sent the cameraman up the rig to check with a ruler. He found the mast bend to be 6 3/4 inches. That's plenty close. The last measurement on the front page of the form is the maximum foot length of the mainsail. Get this distance by moving the outhaul to the most extended position or so that the bearing point of the outhaul is at the inside of the measurement band. Then tie the tape measure to the outhaul. Bring the tape forward and measure to the aft face of the mast at the gooseneck. Sailmakers' shorthand for this measurement is the E measurement. On page 2 of the form, you'll see the rest of the measurements that we need for making a new mainsail. All the information to get the tack of the sail fits in the boxes A through F. All the information to get the clue to fit goes in the boxes W through Z. Make sure to supply photos of your tack and clue attachments. Box A is the measurement for the tack setback. Measure from the aft face of the mast to the forward side of the tack pin. Box B is the tack setup. Measure from the top of the boom to the bottom of the tack pin. Box C is for the reef hook setback. Measure from the aft face of the mast to the front edge of the reef hook. Box D is the reef hook set up. Measure from the top of the boom to the bottom edge of the reef hook. Box E is used when the foot of the sail is attached to the boom. Measure from the aft face of the mast to the slide track or opening for the foot rope. Box C is not necessary if your new mainsail is going to be loose-footed. Finally, box F is where you record how far up from the boom the exit gate or groove opening is. The clue information includes the height of the bearing point of the outhaul attachment. As you can see in the pictures, outhaul systems vary greatly, and these pictures in no way come close to all that are in use. If your outhaul is just a shackle on a line coming out of the boom, write in 0 in box W. Also write in the notes section, no outhaul car, just a shackle on a line or a wire. Please provide a photo of your outhaul arrangement. In box X, indicate the distance from the loosest outhaul setting to the tightest. If your boom has a measurement band, measure from the inside of the band to the loosest setting. Box Y is used if your sail is not going to be loose-footed. Box Z is for the width of the outhaul shackle jaw or the outhaul car. We don't want to put a ring on your sail that's too big for your attachment mechanism. Finally, if your current sail has a clue slug or Velcro strap to hold the clue to the boom, please check the appropriate tick box. In the bottom half of the page, record what luff and foot hardware or ropes are used. If you talk to your sailmaker ahead of time, he can send you some sample slides or luff rope samples to try. Just be ready to tell him if your mainsail has internal or external flat slides, round slugs, or bolt rope. A digital picture of the luff and foot of your current sail will help us to send samples from which to choose a match of your current hardware. When you try the samples, find the biggest one that will go up and down easily. Since most new mainsails are loose-footed, the foot hardware is not needed. Just write loose-footed in the notes section if your sail is going to be loose-footed. If your Genoa is a roller furling sail, the first thing you need to do is indicate which side the roller furling cover is on. Circle port or starboard at the top of the page. Then measure the maximum possible luff length by tying the tape measure to the Genoa halyard, one that exits the mast below the forestay. Be careful not to use a spinnaker halyard because they exit the mast above the forestay. If you accidentally use a spinnaker halyard, your new sail could come out too long on the luff. Next, remember to attach the pull-down line to the halyard shackle. Once the halyard is up all the way and cleated, stretch the tape tight and measure to the bearing point of the tack fitting. The tack fitting can be a bar fitting, horns, a shackle, or just a clevis pin. Make sure to take a picture of your tack fitting for your sail designer. As the 3 pictures show, there are plenty of different tack fittings, and we want to make sure your new sail will fit the fitting you have. When measuring to a shackle, hold it up into the position it would be in under load. If your boat has roller furling, you'll have to make 3 separate measurements along the luff. Start out by lowering the current sail and disconnecting it. Attach the tape measure to the lower shackle on the top swivel so that you measure between it and the shackle on the top of the furling drum. This is the maximum luff length of your furling unit. Then measure from the shackle on the drum to the deck. Finally, measure from the bearing point of the tack shackle to the feeder on the foil. Before taking any more measurements, and while the tape measure is dangling, use your supplied luff tape samples to find the biggest one that moves freely through the feeder and the luff groove. Enter the size on the last page. Also write down the manufacturer and model number of the furling unit so we can double check the luff tape size with the factory specifications. While the halyard is still up all the way, flip the tape measure around the shrouds above the top spreader so that it follows the same paths as the leech of the Genoa and measure to the bearing point of the lead car at the front of the Genoa track, and then move the car to the back of the track and measure again. Do the same for the front and back edges of the number 3 track. Now you can pull the tape measure down. Make sure to keep it out of the water since steel tapes rust. To make the following measurements, tie the tape to the bearing point of the tack fitting. If you have a roller furler, tie the tape to the shackle on the top of the furling drum. Measure to the base of the mast and put that value in the J measurement at the top of the form. Now measure to the base of the shrouds and enter the value in box H. Next, pass the tape around the shrouds like the foot of the Genoa and measure to the bearing point of the lead car at the front of the Genoa track, and then move the car as far aft as it will go and measure to it. These are the measurements that go in boxes I and J in the bottom section of the form. Then walk forward and measure to the lead car at both ends of the number 3 track and put those measurements in boxes K and L. For the measurements of the number 3 track, the tape passes inside the shrouds. And lastly, measure to all the lifeline stanchions in front of the shrouds and enter those measurements in boxes S1, S2, etc. If you've been asked to measure for spreader patches, Follow these instructions. The traditional way to locate and apply patches is to send someone up in a bosun's chair to mark where the spreader tips touch the sail. Next, the sail is either brought back to the loft or the patches are applied to the sail on the dock. A much better way is to take the measurements requested on page 5 of our measurement form. With this information, we can put the patches on correctly before your new sail leaves the loft. Here's how to make the measurements. Attach the tape measure and pull-down line to the Genoa halyard. The pull-down line will be used not only to retrieve the halyard, but it will also help to locate the exact position of the spreader tips. Now raise the halyard as far as it will go. Next, flip the tape measure around the outboard end of the top spreader and then pull it down tight to the chain plate. This measurement is the length of the cap shroud. It won't be exact since you won't be able to get the tape around the end of all the spreader tips, but the angle change from the top of the mast to the outboard end of the upper spreader creates the greatest increase in distance. Enter this measurement in box A on the page titled Measuring for Genoa Spreader Patches. Now lower the tape so that you are measuring from the end of the top spreader down to the deck of the chain plate. To make sure you get the measurement right, lower the tape measure and pull-down line simultaneously, but in different hands so that the pull-down line is behind the shroud and the tape measure is in front of it. By pulling down the halyard this way, you will automatically stop at the spreader tip. Now measure down from the spreader tip to the chain plate and enter the measurement in box B. With the pull-down line still behind the spreader tip, measure forward to the bearing point of the tack fitting. Enter this measurement in box C. Again, walk back to the shrouds and lower the halyard and tape measure simultaneously. Remember to use two hands so that you lower the pull-down line behind the shrouds and the tape measure in front of the shrouds. This way, the halyard gets caught at the next spreader tip down. Once hooked on the spreader tip, measure to the chain plate and enter the number in box D. Again, with the halyard shackle still held at the end of the spreader, walk forward and measure to the bearing point of the tack fitting and enter the measurement in box E. If your boat has a third set of spreaders, continue making the same measurements as you go down the rig and use boxes F and G. Boats with even more sets of spreaders can use the lines below to make notes. If you take your time and follow the old advice about measuring twice, your new sails will fit well, allowing our quality work to please you for years to come. Feel free to send as many close-up pictures as you want with your completed measurement form. After all, they are each worth a lot of words. We've also left a lot of space on the form for notes. Please feel free to fill up those spaces if you think clarification is needed. Finally, if you are not clear about any aspect of the form, please contact your UK Sailmaker for help. Thanks in advance for your time.